Welcome to It's Your Date with Destiny with Apostle Vivian and Pastor Jemma Duncan of Divine Destiny Worship Center in Diego Martin. For the next 30 minutes, join us as we take you on a journey of maximizing your potential and realizing your goals through Jesus Christ.
Why is it when you need a miracle, it doesn't happen, but when you least expect it, it happens?
You are married, you have challenges in your relationship, but your spouse is unwilling to accede to any counseling. Is divorce an option?
How does a parent handle a promiscuous child?
What are considered the do's and don'ts of a born-again couple who is not yet married?
There are always more questions than answers. So here is Apostle Jemma.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Ask Pastor Jemma. Thank you for taking the time to be with me this morning. And I am going to present to you today some bits of information that will help a lot of us, because one of the philosophies of life that I've learned is that we can learn from people who did not succeed. There was a time that I felt that if I wanted to learn, I would choose somebody who did well at something or succeeded at something. But then I realized that there are people who fail at things, and I can also learn what not to do from them. And today is one of those days where we're going to learn from someone who been through an experience, and in hindsight is looking back and teaching us some very valuable lessons. So for the next few weeks, don't know how long it will take, we're going to look at 15 eye-opening bits of advice from a divorced man. And one of the things I appreciate about this gentleman is that usually at the end of divorce, many of us are bitter and we play the blame game. But here is a gentleman looking back at his life, looking back at his relationship, and has decided that instead of being bitter and negative about what happened to him, that he would now inform other people who can learn from his experiences to help them to avoid going down the pathway that he did, and I felt that was wonderful. But in the event that you're a first-time viewer, my name is Jemma Duncan. I'm married to Apostle Vivian Duncan. Together we pastor Divine Destiny Worship Center. Our headquarters is in Diego Martin, on the Diego Martin Main Road, opposite Sardonynx Drive. We have branches in Sangre Grande, Shoguanas, Faizabad, Rio Claro. We have a branch in Tobago, and we also have a branch in Antigua in the event that you have a friend or a family member there. So today, we're going to look at 15 eye-opening bits of advice from a divorced man. Well, we're not going to look at 15 of them today, but most likely, hopefully, we will at least do 5. And one of the things I appreciated when I read this, and what I do is, if I read something and it impacts me generally, I would share it with the church or share it at some kind of a forum, right? Well, obviously, it's not for me, but it could help, and anybody help us in relationships who are married, those who are going to be married, and those who have a chance to influence somebody who is married or intend to be married. So the information is going to be useful anyhow you take it. And what I like about this gentleman was that he is speaking in hindsight, right? Usually when we're talking with foresight, especially when it comes to marriage and romance and all of those things, our heads are usually in the cloud. You know, I don't know which cloud. Some in 9 and some go beyond 9. But hindsight is a very sobering place to be. And another thing I like about him is that usually when people are divorced, there is unforgiveness, there's bitterness, and there's a lot of blame game. Here is this gentleman, having made his mistakes, and obviously, when you look at the tone of what he has to say, regrets what happened to him, has decided that he's going to help other people not to make the same mistakes. So I feel what he has to say is something that we should want to hear want to consider. So let's look at the first 5. Number 1, he says, appreciate your partner. As simple as it is. Never take them for granted. And there's a little tagline that he had, and he said, practice saying, I am grateful for. In other words, count your blessings. What are you grateful for in this relationship? Is there something on a daily basis that you could say, I really am grateful? Appreciate that person. What is that person bringing? I tell people, could it be a meal? And many times we don't appreciate the person because we're not sitting in that seat. I remember a pastor gave his experience. His wife was a homemaker, and they had 3 children. They were small, toddlers, and I think a baby. And he just could not understand why she complained of being tired. Every time he came home, the house was immaculate. So he just presumed that the house remained immaculate. The meals were cooked, the children, clean. What do you do all day to be tired? He went out to work. And one day, the wife had a diagnosis that needed surgery. He didn't even feel the need to employ somebody temporarily to come to help him in the home because, excuse me, what is there to do in the house? And he decided that he would take some days off, time off from church and stay home with the family. He said by the first day, he was almost a crazy man. And for the first time, he appreciated what his wife did on a daily basis. If he had to stay home to be a homemaker, he would have been pulling out every single strand of hair in his head. Now, on the other hand, as a wife, you don't know the stresses that your husband has to face on his workplace. In other words, let us learn how to appreciate the other person. And sometimes, one of the ways that we will learn to appreciate them, like in that man's case, could it be that you will say, take a day off and let me just stay home with the children today? And get a sense, those of you men who do that will have a real good sense of what she does if she is at home all of the time, right? And so, what am I grateful for? Ladies, if you have somebody bringing home a pay packet every week or fortnight or month, could you just say thank you for the pay packet? And because what we do is sometimes we have our men folk bringing in the pay packet, but he's not Mr. Fixer-Upper. And what do? We compare him with the neighbor who always with a hammer and could fix stuff. Well, he is not Mr. Fixer-Upper, but he's faithful in bringing home that pay packet. Is it possible to pay somebody to fix the other things and still be grateful that he is doing that or she is doing something? So this gentleman was saying if he had started by appreciating his wife on a regular basis, by paying attention to what she does and being grateful for it, there's a big chance that they may not have been divorced. Because after a while, what do we see? Only what is not done. What do we see? Only one is lacking. But we have to start looking to see what do we have? What is there we have? What do you do? And not tell me or tell her or tell him what he does not do. What does he do? Focus on that. So appreciate your partner. Number 2, he said we must learn to love unconditionally. And in a way, we have to have a little input from God for that particular part, because the natural human being, our nature is not to love unconditionally. I love you if. I love you when. Right? And some people, they love you because you look a certain way initially. And if that look changes or diminishes in their eyes, they can't love you anymore because you look like that. Wow. I love you when, and I know some people who love because that the relationship afforded them a certain kind of a lifestyle. I remember meeting a gentleman who was a wealthy businessman and had a manufacturing concern. And he said for how many years he would pay his insurance on a regular basis. And this particular year, he allowed the insurance to lapse because nothing ever happened over the years. And he felt that he could actually pay it later. Do you know that during that time there was a fire? They lost everything. And because he was not wise it seemed as though, well, I don't know if the correct word is commingling, but he had included his home and the vehicles and everything in one with the business. And so when he lost the business, he lost his home because he couldn't pay for it, and the cars and everything, they were not separate. And you know, they had two daughters, two teenagers. And you know what the wife told him? She said, when I met you, I met you at a certain level. And I am accustomed to a certain lifestyle. I can't live like this. She can't live as a poor person. And she walked away from this gentleman, his two beautiful daughters, and left him broken. He had already lost everything, because I love you if and I love you when. All right? And this gentleman is saying, if you want your relationship to work, we have to learn to love unconditionally. Only God alone can help us to love unconditionally, because the natural thing to do is to love when I get back something. Because some people love and then there is nothing coming back to us. I'm giving, I'm serving, I'm bending over backward and nothing coming back. Unconditional love means I still have to love you that same way. And I want us to look at what the Bible talks about. Well, the Bible talks about unconditional love. And in 1 Corinthians 13 it says, "Do I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity or love, and become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal? And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I'm nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity or love again, it profiteth me nothing." And it describes what love is. So instead of charity, I'll say love. Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Now, I don't want to really stay there to even talk about that, but that's a big, big package. Unconditional love means loving when no love is coming back. Unconditional love means I love you, and there is no if and when and how. There is nothing to it. And he says we have to learn to love unconditionally. Ask God to help you with that, because it's only God alone can help me to love unconditionally. It's only God alone can help you to love unconditionally. He said to keep the romance alive. What do you do to keep the romance alive? Most people know exactly what you need to do to keep the romance alive. Go back and do what you did before you got married. Exactly what you did. Maybe not as often as you did. Maybe not in the very same way that you did. But there are some elements that you can include. Let's say we probably would go out every week. Then perhaps once a month, you wine and dine the person. And ladies, you could also wine and dine them as well, you know what I mean? We could pay. At times, we could be the ones who initiate, because you say he doesn't take me out, but you don't take him out either. So, I mean, it's not, these days, we want to be women who are free and liberated, but, when it comes to certain things, we still complain that the man doesn't do it. Either of us could do it, right? So, keep the romance alive. What does it take? And I remember a preacher saying that he and his wife, they are older couple, they have grown children, grandchildren, and so on. Probably great-grandchildren, and you know what he says? He says every single day they give each other a little token. Even if it means, he said, when he goes to the office first, they work together in the church, and he will go first. And he said, even if it means clipping a rose or a flower from the yard, either the house or the churchyard, and when she comes in, he gives her this little flower. It's not an expensive gift. It's not something that you have to buy, but you have to think up something. Every day, they come up with some little way to say, I appreciate you in some way. And that sounds good to me. I don't practice that, but I just tell you what the gentleman say. It would be good. Find a way to keep the romance alive. So what you did to get that person, then you have to do it to keep that person. And Vivian often says, whatever you obtain, you must maintain in order to retain. Now, you sit down there and try to work out that and see what you get out of that. Take responsibility for your own actions and stop saying, I did this because you. So, something happened and that person may do something and I explode and I behave in a manner I should not behave. And then you know what I say? I will say, I did this because you said so. I did it because you treated me so. He said, don't say I did this because. Take responsibility. The truth is that person may have triggered a certain behavior in you, but you don't have to take bait. I don't have to behave like that. I don't have to spill over, you know what I mean? I don't have to erupt because that person behaves so. And if I actually do something, I must say, yes, I am responsible for my behavior. I should not have reacted in that way. I know you said so and so and so, but my reaction was wrong as well. I could have responded better. Because the Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. Now, I must tell you that I do not practice everything I'm telling you here, talking about the gentleman here, and I'm trying to learn from him myself. So all of us in the same boat. So I'm not sitting down like any judge pontificating on other people's relationship. I am also guilty as charged, and I want to learn myself. And the last one, forgive. He says words hurt, actions harm. But if we go into have a long-term relationship, and that's number 5, and that's where we're going to stop here today, we have to forgive. I'm looking at the Bible again, and in Matthew, Jesus was teaching on forgiveness in Matthew chapter 18. And when he was done talking, and you should read it yourself, verse 21 says, Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Verse 22, Jesus says unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Wow. And Peter was talking about anybody. And this gentleman is saying, forgive. In other words, some of us, all of us have to learn that 70 times 7 rule in our relationship. And Vivian likes to say, when it says 70 times 7, it's 490. Jesus didn't mean after 490 he could retaliate. What Jesus was saying was ridiculous, to kind of keep a count of. And ladies, you know, we tend to do that. Something happened and you have to remind him, well, I'm guilty. That what he did, the same thing some time ago, you know. And Jesus said, no, you have to wipe the slate clean, you have to forgive. And here is a gentleman having gone through a very painful experience and is looking back and trying to be a blessing to each of us. I appreciate it. So let me go quickly at what he says. Appreciate your partner, love unconditionally, keep the romance alive, take responsibility for your actions, and number 5, forgive. The next time we meet, I'll give you the next 5, and in a few weeks, or 3 weeks or so, we shall have all 15. And I really hope and pray that somebody is listening to me and you adjust your relationship or your behavior, your reaction to suit what you've heard. You know, remember we're talking about to avoid divorce or to enhance relationships. This does not just apply to marriage. It applies to any kind of relationship, just family relationship, work relationship, just interpersonal relationships. So we could benefit if we apply these very same principles in our relationships. One of the flaws we have is we're not getting along people. All of us, you know, no matter what, workplace conflict. And you know what is amazing? We are all conflicted within our own selves. So you can imagine if we fight, because sometimes I battle with my own self. I have my own inner conflict. And we have to learn to resolve conflict from there, because I also have to learn to forgive me. I forgive me. And then we have to learn to forgive others and so on. And I believe that the world is going to be a much better place if every single one of us learn how to resolve conflict and what to do. And you're listening to me, take 1 out of the 5. See if you could just pick 1. 1 may apply to you, and see if you could work with that 1, because sometimes Rome wasn't built in a day. We may try to do too much. Don't try to do too much, but take 1 and allow that 1 thing to change your relationship. God bless you real good. I'm happy to have been having this discussion with you, and my hope is that at the end of this, you are going to have a better relationship. It doesn't matter at which level or where you are in your relationship.
All I want is you. All I want is you. Oh, Jesus. All I imagine how that sounds to the Father when we say to him, all I want is you. We live in a nation that seems to want to turn its back on God, but there's a people who are crying out and saying, all I want. I'm not after the blessings, I'm not after the things, I'm after the presence of God. All I want. Because when you get God, you get everything else that you need. All I want is you, Lord. You can seek after things but miss God, but if you seek after God, the things will come. All I want.
Pleasant good morning to you. Have you ever said to yourself, I really wish I can understand the Bible better? I read the Bible, but I simply do not understand it. I wish I knew enough to share my faith. Sometimes I sit in the pew and I don't quite understand because the pastor uses so many scriptures. If you said any of these things, today I have the answer and the solution to your problem. My name is Jemma Duncan. My husband and I are the pastors of Divine Destiny Worship Center with our headquarters in Diego Martin. And we have a program called the School of the Bible that I would like to introduce to you today. School of the Bible is a one-year program for simple, regular, ordinary people who sit in the pews, whose only desire is to understand the Bible better. Since 2014, we've catered for a wide range of persons as young as 10 years old and the people into their 80s. So it's something that the average person can really understand and grasp. Although we cater primarily for people in the pews, we've had a few pastors who came and they felt that they should just sharpen up their information based on the Word of God. Since 2014, we've helped almost 400 persons, ranging from young to way into the 80s. The program lasts for a year. Every Tuesday from 7 to 9 we meet, and for 4 Saturdays for the entire year. Every quarter we have what we call a quarterly assessment meeting. The quarterly is from 9 to 4. We also have online facilities, and we've been really blessed. We have had people from USA, Canada, Europe, the Caribbean countries, Tobago, and we actually have what we call a local online group or groups of people who cannot come to what we call in class in Diego Martin. It doesn't matter where you are, you can access School of the Bible. We have lectures, we have group reports, individual book reports, movies, training in all our presentations that we call 5-minute sermonette, PowerPoint presentations. I mean, you name it, we have it. And we cover a wide range of topics. Our main resources are the Bible and the 7 manuals, and I'm going to just quickly give you a sense of the manual. Volume 1 contains the overview of the Bible and the first 5 books of the Bible, called the books of Moses, the books of the law, or the Pentateuch. It goes from Genesis to Deuteronomy. Volume 2 are what we call the books of history, from Joshua to Esther. Volume 3 are the books of poetry, from Job to Song of Solomon. Volume 4, books of prophecy, and the books of prophecy are divided into the minor prophets, major prophets. The major prophets are from Isaiah to Daniel, minor prophets, Hosea to Malachi. When you come to the School of the Bible, you will get a further understanding as to why they are called minor and major. Shifting into the New Testament, Volume 5 are the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the one historical book, the book of Acts. Volume number 6 are letters of Paul. They are called the Pauline epistles, from Romans to Philemon. And volume number 7 are the general letters written by a variety of authors, from Hebrews to Jude. And then the one book of prophecy in the New Testament, the book of Revelation. Other resource materials are available on request. We have them there. If you wish for them, they're not compulsory. You can request them and we'll order them for you. We want to give you a little example of what some of the volumes look like. And so we have the cover page for the overview of the Bible, the cover page for the book of Genesis, and the cover page for the comparative study of the gospel. Call us at 633-3780 for further information. And this information will be for 2020. A brochure will be sent to you with all the information you will need. See you in School of the Bible in 2020. I don't want you to ever forget what Jesus said. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. God bless you real good.